Hello and welcome to Cracking the Cryptic, where as usual on a Friday I'm going to try and solve the Diabolical Sudoku, which appears in the Daily Telegraph. It's normally the hardest puzzle that we see in the broadsheet press in the UK, and without further ado, let's start looking at it. As usual, I'll be using the pencil marks we recommend, and by which if we can limit a number by which I mean if we can limit a number to just exactly 2 positions in a 3x3 block, then I'll allow myself to pencil mark those 2 positions. So you can see in this block here that a 1 is limited to these 2 cells because of this one here and this one here. So I'll just enter in little pencil marks like that. That allows me to enter more pencil marked 1s in this box, because now I have a combination of 1s here, 1 here and 1 here. And you can see we can actually place a big 6 there, 6, 6 and 6 down here, and that allows me to place a 6 here. What now? Some pencil marks in the middle there. Pencil mark 5s here, pencil mark 2s here. And as always, the sort of initial stages of solving any Sudoku, I mean, they are a bit repetitive. And they do a little bit rely on luck, you know, how quickly your eyes fall on the right place to look. Let's see, we can put another big 6 in there. 9's pencil marked up here. 6 is pencil marked down there, look. 1's pencil marked across the middle cell. 9's here, 9's there, starting to run out of obvious numbers now. I guess we can pencil mark 7's there, look. Interaction of this 3 here and this 3 over here mean we can pencil mark 3's into those 2 positions. That's useful. You can see that's going to allow me to place a big 3 here. And the moment I do that, because I've already pencil marked a 4, I can actually place the 4 as well, and that's going to give me a few numbers now. So this 3 here forces this to be a 3 because of the early pencil mark. Place that now. Always remember to try and keep track of your pencil marks. Don't go too far ahead without keeping up with what you've been doing. And this 4 here now interacts with this 4 and allows us to place a big 4 over here. And that allows me to pencil mark some more 4's down there, look. A couple of these rows and columns are getting quite congested now. Do anything with them. Nothing obvious yet. I suppose this 2 does operate so that we can place 2 pencil marks there. This pencil mark 5's there, look, does that help? No. Not yet. 6. This 3 here and this 3 here. I mean, we can place some more pencil marks in this block, there and there. That's going to give me another number. Place that one. That's going to allow me to pencil mark 2's now, because now the 2's are restricted to just 2 positions. Before we got this 3, they were in 3 positions in this 3x3 block, and I don't want to pencil mark 3 positions. It doesn't give you as much help as this method does. Column 1's interesting. 1, 2, 4 and 8 to place there. Okay, good. Let's have a look at this cell. See, that can only be an 8. That's going to be useful actually. So we needed a 1, 2, 4 and 8 down the column. And just by checking the open positions, we could see in this column, in row 6, we already had a 1, 2 and a 4 there. That's allowing me to place an 8 there, and look at the effect that has on the top of the grid now. I can now place 8s in those two positions, which gives me a nice double in this 3x3 block, but it also means that this cannot be a 4 anymore. 4 must be here. If the 4 was here, both this cell, into this cell we'd need to place a 3 and an 8. That's obviously impossible, so that's one of the useful things about using this notation. So now we're able to, well, we know what's in column 3 in these 3 positions now. It's going to have to be a 2 and a 7. Now that means this cell here cannot contain a 2, so we can immediately put that in, like that. And as there's a 7 here, we can look here at this 3x3 block, and that interacts with this 7. So now we actually get to make another, we find another pair there of 4, 7 into this cell. That's almost certainly going to be useful. What do we need in this column now? 2 and 1 are the open numbers here, and we have a 2 here. So in fact we can finish this. We can finish column 1 off. 2 there, 1 there. That gives us the 1 there of our earlier pencil marks. Quite see how to get the 2. So 4, 7. Back over here then, so we need 5 and 9 into these two positions. 5, 7, 9 here. Okay, let's have a look at row 6 now. You can see we need 5, 6, 7 and 9. Now this cell is interesting because we already have a 5 and a 6 in this 3x3 block, and there's a 9 here, so this cell can only be a 7. Let's put that in. 7 from there. It feels like that ought to be quite helpful. Let's check the column 2, 3, 5, 8, 5, 5. 5's forced down into one of these two positions. But we had that from this 5 and this 5 interaction. But 2, 3 and 8 already in row 8 here. So this cell again is forced. I think this can only be a 5 now. Again, a hidden single. So let's put that in. Sorry, a naked single. I must get my nomenclature right, or I get hauled over the coals for that. So now what are we looking for? 4, 7, 9 along here. Can't quite see how to resolve that. And 2, 3 and 8 down here. Feels like, I mean, you can see actually just quick inspection of the grid is that the numbers 8 and 9, there really aren't very many of them. So 5, 8, 9. This square here can only be an 8 or a 9. You can see that just because we need 5, 8, 9 in the row, and there's a 5 here. I think this square, because we've got the 2's locked up here, we need 2, 8, 9 to finish this box. This is obviously an 8 or a 9 as well, so there is an 8, 9 pair there. 8, 9 pair. So this cannot be a 9. So we can actually write this in. This has to be the 9 then. And therefore, what we've got here is an 8 and an 8. So that's quite a nice little bit of logic there. Now that might help us to make a bit more progress. Yes, that's really going to open up the grid. You can see immediately we can place a 9 into this position. We can do a variety of things off the back of that. One of them is to pencil mark 9s there. Now, if if we look at the effect that has down here, it's interesting. Because now we have a 9 in this position or this position, in this 3 by 3 block, i.e. the 9 is either in row 7 or row 9. Now look at this, look at what's happened here. We also have the 9 constrained to row 7 or row 9 in this 3 by 3 block. So whichever arrangement of 9s turns out to be correct, whether the 9 is here and here, or the 9 is here and here, there can be no more 9s in rows 7 and 9. Now that is important because now let's look at this 3 by 3 block. This cannot be a 9 anymore. You can quickly prove that yourself if you're not convinced by my pithy explanation there. If this is a 9, look what happens. This has to be a 9. And because this is a 9, this can't be a 9, so this has to be a 9 as well. So we end up with 2 9s in row 9. So obviously that's not going to be correct. So let's remove that 9. This is going to be a 9 here. Now I just want to take care. So you can see we need 4 and 7 now into row 8. So this cell cannot be a... so that has to be the 7. That resolves the 7 and the 4 there. And again, we need to keep track of the pencil marks that we're able to insert as a result of all this new information we're logging. So the 9s here allow us to pencil mark 9s into those 2 positions. That gives us, in effect, a 9-5 pair. This cell can no longer contain a 6, so we're able to place a 6 into this cell. That means we can place a 6 here immediately as well. Let's remove the pencil mark. And you can see across the middle we now need 1, 7 and 8. We can pencil mark some 7s. Rather annoyingly, we can't pencil mark 8s yet because there really are very few 8s in the grid. Okay, but we're making reasonable progress now. This 9 here allows us to resolve that 9. Let's put that in. So we're now 2, 4, 8. 4. Well, we identified this was an 8 or a 9 earlier, so now we have a 9 here, so that must now be an 8. I don't even have to check that, that must be true, which allows us to place an 8 here and a 2. That's going to help. Now I can pencil mark 2s there, 8, 8, pencil mark 8s up there. What are we left with along here? 5 and 9 to finish off this row. It's surprising. 8, the 8s are now locked into those 2 positions. And I'm just going to take a little bit of time here just to make sure I don't miss anything very obvious. There's nothing more frustrating when you're solving these puzzles live than missing a simple piece of logic that would break the puzzle very quickly. 3, 4, 5, 7. Seeing anything? 2, 4, and 8. Okay, well, I'm not certain, but I'm not seeing anything obvious here. So one of the things that you can do at this stage is to try and identify cells that are very restricted. So obviously with this method of notation, what we're not doing is identifying cells like this, which can only be a 2 or a 3 because the column already contains 7 numbers. So I'm just going to scan the grid now and see if there are any opportunities to add more cells like that that might be useful. You can see because there's 3 unknowns here, and if you like, we've managed to make 2 pencil marks. Even if we added the missing number, the 5, to all of these cells like this, we would find 2 more double cells, if you like. So it's these sorts of cells that I want to look at just to see if we can see any connection between them. 2, 4, 8. Oh, well, in fact, there it is. Well, there's something there, isn't there? There's a Y-wing. So what do I mean by a Y-wing? Well, the way I always think about Y-wings, which is a good tip, I think, because I think I find them much harder to spot if I didn't think of them this way, is they're essentially triples that just aren't in the same row or column. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at the central row of the grid. If we look at the central row of the grid and I add the missing 8s, if we saw this arrangement, a 1, 7 and 8 combination like this, it would immediately occur to us that this is a triple. Yeah, so if we were eliminating from these 3 cells, if we didn't already have these filled, we would immediately be very comfortable with eliminating the 1 and the 7 and the 8 from these possibilities, because we can see that this is a triple on the numbers 1, 7 and 8. Well, a Y-wing is just like that, except that rather than the triple being in the same 3x3 block or in the same row or column, it's slightly bent. So you can see this now. If we look at this 3, 8, 2, 3 and 2, 8 here, these are all this forms a triple on the numbers 2, 3 and 8, but it's not in the same row. Now, does that matter? Well, it means that we can't just go willy-nilly eliminating 2, 3s and 8s everywhere, but we can think about the effect that this arrangement has on some of the cells that are connected to this cell, and this cell. And the most obvious one actually is this cell. And let's think about why. I think the technical term for this cell is a pivot, but you don't have to know technical terms. We just have to think about the effect of either choice in this cell on this sort of bent triple. You can see if this is a 2, this cell will have to be an 8, and if this is a 3, this cell will have to be an 8. So there is no way this cell can contain an 8. If this cell contains an 8, the puzzle will break. So we can remove the 8 from this cell, and we create ourselves another very restricted cell now. Now we've got the 2, 4 pair in column 9. If we now think about where can we place an 8 in column 9, we can no longer put one here because we spotted the Y-wing. We can no longer put one here, so we can put one here. And that might help. Let's just have a look. Well, I guess the most obvious thing is we've now look at column 5 here. We need to put a 7 and an 8 into the column. We can no longer put the 8 here, so this is going to have to be a 7. That means this is an 8, this is a 1, and this is a 7, which means that this is a 1 and this is a 1. What do we need now? 2 and 5 along there. But we have a 5, 9 pair here, so this can only be a 2, I think. Let's put that in. That means this must be the 5. 2, 5. This cell here is forced, this can only be a 7 now. Let's put that in. That means that's a 7 up there. We now need a 3 and a 4 in column 8. You can see 4 can't go here, so this must be a 3, which means we can resolve that pattern there like that. This now must be the 2, and this is the 4. That's the 2 because of pencil marks. We need a 5 and an 8 into these 2 positions. This 3 here is going to resolve everything. So interesting actually. Today, I think the only trick that we really needed in order to crack the puzzle open was that Y-wing. Other than that, just a bit of sensible technique and we were able to get there. So I hope this was helpful and you enjoyed the video. If you did and you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe to the channel. We do appreciate it. And we'll see you again next time on Cracking Cryptid.